I just wanna be myself and I want you to love me for who I am. I just wanna be myself and I want you to know I am my hair. I've had enough. This is my prayer that I'll die living just as free as my hair. I've had enough. This is my prayer that I'll die living just as free as my hair. Pause up if you know Hair by Lady Gaga. Y'all got me singing the a cappella version of that song for copyright reasons, but I wanted to share because that is the theme of today's episode. Yes, I shaved my head. Jai Ma. If you're watching the video version of this, then you can see it. Or if you've seen me in person recently. But yes, I shaved my head. Saturday, May 10th, 2025 was the 7-year anniversary of the day that I initiated myself further onto the yogic path by vowing not to brush or cut my hair for 7 years and to allow my hair to form into natural locks, which are known as Shiva Jatas in yoga. Shiva, like the Hindu god, Jatas. To commemorate the completion of this vow, my mentor Swami Shankarananda from the Shivananda yoga lineage came up from West Virginia and led a haircutting ceremony at Yoga Central in Canton, my home yoga studio, my yoga home, the first studio where I studied and spent a lot of significant time and still do to this day. So that was a very special day. What is up, my witches? Welcome or welcome back to the Queer Soul Alchemy podcast, where we yap about yoga and Ayurveda, astrology and tarot, sexuality and spirituality, self-expression and queerness, and so much more. I'm your host and favorite queer NB priestess, Paisley Parvati Devi. And on today's episode, after we talk about the main astrological transits, of course, we will discuss the spiritual and cultural meaning behind wearing locks. What's the big deal? It's just hair, right? Right? Why 7 years? What will I do with the locks now that they're cut off? What about cultural appropriation? And why isn't there more diversity in the yoga space? We'll dive into all of these questions and more on this episode. And at the end, I'll share a video of the haircutting ceremony with you and a video timeline of my entire locks journey from when I first started to allow my hair to naturally lock on its own till the locks actually matured and all the way until I cut them off. But first, new episodes of this podcast drop every other Wednesday, posted on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. What do you guys want to hear about next? Feel free to email me at paisleyparvatidevi@gmail.com. That's PAISLEYPARVATIDEVI@gmail.com. Stay in the loop about all my offers and upcoming events. And to download my free self-care resource guide, please join my email list on my website at youareloved.one/pod. That's youareloved.one/pod. Wherever you're listening from, please give this podcast episode a like, subscribe, follow us on Spotify, and leave a comment or a review, whatever platform you're listening on. Also, feel free to send this episode to a friend who may resonate with it. And specifically, y'all, this week, if you're a person of color and you happen to be listening to this episode, please email me your thoughts on the main subject for today. I would absolutely love to hear from you, and I would love for this to be a greater discussion and to share diverse perspectives. So I want to elevate your voices and your experiences. So please do write in. If you're okay with me sharing your story, I'd be happy to do that and keep you anonymous if you'd like to be anonymous. Or if you just have feedback for me, like if you want to let me know what you want to hear about next. So, as the song that I sang in the beginning, "Hair" by Lady Gaga, as that song suggests, hair is not only hair. Sometimes when the subject has come up, I get that response of like, well, it's just hair, it's not a big deal. And like, yes, I can see that perspective, but in this case, it's not only hair. Wearing locks, the specific hairstyle known as locks, is not only hair. It's a whole identity. And specifically, locks is a hairstyle that's full of history and identity that's very significant to certain groups of people, to certain cultures. And they have been worn by various cultures throughout humanity, all over the globe. So we'll get into that a little bit later. However, in the US and really worldwide, but we'll keep it to what we know, what I know, the US. People have historically been marginalized and discriminated against based on their hair texture. For example, being refused jobs and that sort of thing, or just generally being general prejudice, general hatred based on something like hair texture or appearance of hair. And not having equal access to getting a job or being forced to fall in line with certain white standards or white centric, Eurocentric standards of appearance and professionalism in order to get a job, which is very oppressive to various cultures, right? So it's understandable that some people of color, especially Black people, are very offended by white people wearing certain hairstyles that are often associated with their culture, like box braids and locks. So, just a trigger warning before we really dive into this episode. If you are a person of color listening to this episode and you have racial trauma, which, of course, just a note like, please take care of yourself. Only listen to and engage with this content, this conversation, if you're mentally in a place to do so. And just know that there's never any pressure to engage with this conversation. This is more so education for the broader audience, and a lot of people that listen to me are white. So this is education for those folks as well. But just trigger warning, in case you're not in a space to hear that, please just take care of yourself. And in that same vein, throughout this episode, you'll hear me referring to my hair as locks versus dreadlocks, which is arguably the more common colloquial term. However, I, in principle, do not like to refer to that hairstyle as dreadlocks because I feel that that has racial implications or a negative connotation at the very least. It could be, I've heard it said as well that when Black people wear them, they're called locks, and when white people wear them, they're called dreadlocks. I haven't done research on that specifically, but there's nothing dreadful about them at the end of the day, and I just don't like to use the term dreadlocks because I feel like it really perpetuates negative stereotypes, some of which are absolutely racial in nature. So throughout this episode, you'll hear me referring to that hairstyle as wearing locks. All right. You can already tell this is getting into some heavy territory, so I'd just like to take a moment to invoke divine guidance and wisdom for this episode, that it may spark reflection in the highest service of all involved, and may we have the patience to learn from each other, to listen, and to approach this controversial topic, or a topic that can bring up a lot emotionally, with an open heart. Before we get into all of that, let's shift our focus to the astrology main transits for the next couple of weeks. Is Mercury in the microwave again, you guys? All right. So the astrology for this coming couple of weeks. Today, Wednesday, May 21st, the sun moves into the sign of Gemini. Gemini is a Mercury-ruled mutable air sign. And the mutable signs, you guys, they come at the end of every season. So I like to think of the cardinal signs as being the initiators. They're at the start of every season. The fixed signs are the sustainers, the perpetuators, and they come into the middle of the season. And then the mutable signs are the mutators, the adapters, the changers and movers and shakers, right? They come in between the seasons or at the end as a transition between the seasons. And so we just left Taurus season, such a lovely, grounded, fixed earth sign energy. And we're moving into a very different energy, which is this not only mutable, which is already adaptable, changeable, and kind of chaotic, right? But also an air sign, which is intellectual and very much having to do with our minds and logic, expanding our minds, expanding our intellect. Gemini is also the archetype of the student. It's known as being endlessly curious. And that is why it gets the bad rap for kind of being indecisive or non-committal, because Gemini is just so curious about so many different things and so excited to learn about everything it possibly can. I think of like a butterfly when I think of Gemini energy, just flitting from one thing to the next and really enjoying it all and taking it all in. Because it is associated with Mercury, which is the planet that rules the intellect, Gemini is also known for analysis, think spreadsheets. It can organize and reorganize and find a third way to organize and color code and hyper organize, hyper analyze, and get so kind of lost in the sauce of the details and just enjoying the process of analysis that it never actually gets to the next step. And that's where we see with all of the mutable signs, but especially with Gemini, this difficulty with follow through, difficulty with actually seeing things through to completion because there's so many ideas. And I also think of like Squirrel. What is that from? Up, where the dog is like every single time so distracted, just like Squirrel. That's such Gemini energy, just the chaotic. Shiny object syndrome, right? Because it is so curious, because it is so playful and quick moving. So Taurus energy, very steady, stable. It was a really nice respite, right, from the rest of this year so far. This year has been intense, and Taurus was a much needed moment in the sun, so to speak, right? Well, here comes Gemini flying in on the heels of Taurus, getting ready to once again shake things up and spice things up as we're moving into the summer, right? We got that infusion of solar energy and we've had our moment of like building up and building momentum. And now it's like full speed ahead into the summertime with Gemini, right? So, a theme for this season is the ability to change your mind. That is Gemini's greatest strength. We can see it as like, oh, Gemini is flaky and non committal, and they can never settle on one thing. They just want to do it all. And they're kind of known for being like a master of none. Yeah. Jack or Jill of all trades, master of none, but knowing a lot and being fairly good at a lot of different things. So we could see that as a fault, and we could see that as being like shallow, which Gemini energy is light and playful. It's fun because there is so much interest in various things, because there is that shiny object syndrome. This, it does have a bit of a reputation for like getting easily bored or just lacking that follow through, right? We can see that as a weakness. And sure, that can certainly work against us. Or we can also see that as its greatest strength. Mutable air, the ability to be flexible and adaptable and changeable, the ability to fit in with so many different types of people. And Gemini energy also has this chameleon type quality where they're able to reflect back based on whatever people they're around. And that's where they get their like two-faced. Gemini has a bad rap for being two-faced. But really it's because Gemini is like a mirror. Gemini is the twins. And so, because they have that mutable quality, like a chameleon, they tend to reflect back the energy of whoever they're around. And that can give them the perception of coming off as being inauthentic or being two-faced, being dishonest one way in one circumstance and another way in another circumstance. But if we're being honest, don't we all put on those masks a little bit? Gemini has just mastered it. And that's why Gemini is also, again, like a butterfly, like social butterfly, just being able to find its way and make friends any different place, so many different places, because like a chameleon, it just adapts and blends in and can grow anywhere, can make their situation work anywhere. So that adaptability, that flexibility, that go with the flow and bloom where you're planted kind of energy, that curiosity, these are all huge strengths of Gemini. And those can be Gemini energy's greatest gift. So where Taurus says, I must be so practical, I must be measured, I must be cautious and plan everything out and think everything through, fixed earth, right? Gemini is like, actually, I'm going to just like trust this crazy adventure of life. It might be a little bit chaotic, but it's gonna be fun. And I trust that I can adapt and go with the flow of whatever changes. And I'm ready to shake it up, right? The sun is shining. We're coming into summertime. We're ready to shake things up. So embrace this energy, you guys. Powerful Gemini energy. You can change your mind. You don't have to be stuck. Is there something that's been keeping you stuck? Have you been keeping yourself stuck in a mental state or thinking about things in a very specific way and kind of keeping yourself in a mental trap, not allowing yourself to pivot? Just notice if you have anything in your life where this energy can be medicine. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to adapt and grow. Even if it appears to be chaotic, even if it seems messy or doesn't make sense to other people, follow your instincts, follow your intuition, and follow your curiosity. So, Sun in Gemini officially as of today, and it will stay in Gemini until the summer solstice coming up June 21st, I believe. We also have a new moon in Gemini next Monday, May 26th. So absolutely amazing time for setting intentions around what would you like to cultivate intellectually? What would you like to learn? What mental tasks or analysis or curiosity, what kind of studies would you like to set intentions for and initiate coming this new moon? What would you like to have the freedom to change your mind about? What would you like to be more flexible around? Plant those seeds, plant those intentions. This new moon in Gemini, May 26th. Last thing I'll mention astrologically, you guys, is that we're still in this time period where most planets are direct. The only planet that is retrograde right now is Pluto, retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. So this is adding to the forward moving energy. We also are officially wrapped up with Venus retrograde's shadow period now. So all of those lessons that we may have learned or brought to the surface, those themes from the Venus retrograde earlier this year, are now integrated, and we're officially able to move forward in our relationships and where we find beauty and with our money as well. So woot woot, lots of forward moving energy, like I said, except for that Pluto, which is the only retrograde planet between now and the end of June, when we start getting more retrogrades once again. So as far as what the Pluto retrograde means, there's still shadow work and lessons to be learned in the Aquarius ruled part of your chart that this Pluto retrograde is bringing up. And that's going to be different for everybody. How you would find that is by pulling up your natal chart, which is the circular astrology chart that readers will use. And you'd find the house that is ruled by Aquarius in your chart. And that is where this Pluto retrograde is affecting, because the Pluto retrograde is in the sign of Aquarius. So for me, Aquarius is my third house. Early childhood, siblings, and family stuff. Early childhood family stuff. Early childhood friends, repressed memories, all that good stuff. So that's been a whole side quest in addition to the other astrological major transits that are happening for me in terms of my career and my daily life and my daily routine. So I'll share a little bit more about that as we get into the main content for today's episode. But yeah, you guys, that is pretty much what's going on for the next couple of weeks here. And main thing to take home is just take care of yourself. We are, again, in this mutable air sign energy. So remember to ground. You might be feeling a little chaotic. You might be feeling a little frazzled or ungrounded, or just don't know where to put your energy. That's something that Gemini can really struggle with, because there is this pull towards so many things and excitement about so many things. There can be really this almost burnout or overwhelm around where do I put my energy, So remember to ground one thing at a time. If you need some tips on grounding practices, I do have plenty of those on my website, on my blog, and check out the earlier episodes of the podcast as well, especially the episode on Abhyanga, which is Ayurvedic massage, the self-oil massage. That practice, I swear by it. There's absolutely nothing better for grounding than the self-oil massage. So that's episode number 4 of the podcast. I tell you all about it and how to do it and the benefits. So highly recommend that, or other grounding techniques. Of course, it's a great time of year to be getting outside and just literally laying on the ground. So good for grounding. Make sure you give yourself some barefoot time, skin to earth contact, very important for grounding, and just get the sun on you. And yeah, just remember to take care of yourself, you guys. These are crazy times, crazy times that we're living in. Anyway, I mentioned the Aquarius ruled part of your chart, the house that Aquarius will rule, is how you would know where this current Pluto retrograde is affecting you in your life. If you want to know more about your chart, if you want to dive deep into that and go through all of your planets, all of your houses, answer specific questions, I'm absolutely happy to do that for you. You can just book a personal astrology reading with me on my website, youareloved.one. I also recently updated my private session packages on my website, you guys. It's a much more streamlined way to work with me now. So you can view all of those by going to youareloved.one. And then the tab is called Work With Me, and that'll walk you right through it. 3 very easy steps, starting with just booking a no obligation 30-minute connection call with me, where we can determine, what's the best way for us to work together? Is it a good fit? What specifically can I help you with? And then we proceed with the package. So definitely check that out, you guys, and book a personal reading if you are just wanting to dip your toe in and learn more about your own chart and about astrology in general. I absolutely love working one-on-one with clients for that. Join my email list. I already mentioned that. And then the Queer Campout retreat is coming up quick, you guys, just about a month out. So it is June 20th through the 22nd in Ravenna on a private property with a sauna. And this is a queer yoga retreat specifically for members of the LGBTQ plus community. There is one scholarship available. It is a full tuition scholarship, and you can apply for that on my website. So I'm planning on announcing the winner for that on, or not winner, I guess, like scholarship recipient is a nicer way to put it. It's not a competition, but it will be getting awarded. So I will be announcing that on June 1st. I'll be contacting everybody that applied and just, letting them know who I ended up giving it to. I really want it to go to somebody in financial need, and people of color, of course, will be prioritized for that. So if you're interested in joining Queer Camp Out, and if whether or not you're interested in applying for the scholarship, you can find all of that on my website under the events and classes tab, and it's called Queer Camp Out June 2025. So join us for Pride Month, y'all. It's going to be so awesome. I'm also teaming up with a local yoga teacher who's based here in Cleveland, and she's also queer, so I'm super excited for that. And just it's shaping out to be a really great group so far. It's going to be such a nice time to celebrate the summer solstice and just enjoy some queer hang time, queer community building in the sun and R&R, and do a little yoga while we're at it. So come join us. Get those applications in though if you guys are interested. Definitely by before June 1st, because that is when I'll be announcing the scholarships. Okay, last thing that I'm promoting here. Did you know that Guatemala is home to more volcanoes than any other country? This powerful land is the perfect place for our collective transformation. This week-long journey will be equal parts adventure and grounding healing work. A group of like-minded seekers is being called forth to co-create a safe container for our collective transformation. Embark on an extraordinary journey through the heart of Guatemala, where each day unfolds with transformative experiences designed to elevate your mind, body, and spirit. Connect to your higher self by beginning each day with the ancient practices of yoga, breathwork, and meditation. Honor and appreciate authentic Mayan culture through the grace of local guides and indigenous facilitators. This is not just another yoga retreat. This is a journey of self-discovery and empowerment that offers a perfect balance of adventure, cultural immersion, and deep personal transformational work. Take some time for yourself to get away from it all and tune in. Do you hear the call? Then join us for Guatemala Yoga Retreat, Authenticity, Empowerment, and Adventure with Paisley, February 3rd to 10 of 2026. That's coming up so soon, you guys. We're like 8 months out, 10 months out, something like this. If you are interested, the detailed itinerary and the testimonials from the last trip, detailed itinerary for this coming up trip, testimonials from the last trip, are on my website, youareloved.one/Guatemala. And if you're serious and if you're interested, you guys, please fill out the application that's on my website. And everybody that fills that out, I'm going to be sending out info to join a free Q&A session. It's going to be on Monday, June 2nd from 6 to 7:30 p.m. EST over Zoom. Assuming that we need it. The first 5 early bird discount spots did sell out, so yay, very excited. Those of you that have taken the leap and plan on joining us, so very excited. So we are now out of early bird discount spots, but regular price is still very reasonable, and we have 6 spots available. So if you're serious and you want to learn more, go ahead and fill out that application. It's on my website. And like I said, I'll send out information to join that free. It's a no obligation, but please only sign up if you're serious. Info and Q&A session for Guatemala. That's on Monday, June 2nd. And more information about that is also in a previous podcast episode. So you can go back and listen to episode number 8, Let's Go to Guatemala, and get all the details on pricing and a rundown of the itinerary and my personal experience, why I love Guatemala, etc., etc., etc. And depending on who I talk to between now and that Monday, we may not need the info session, but it just depends on who needs it, because sometimes I'm just connecting with you guys one-on-one, or some of y'all are telling friends, and then we're just like meeting up in small groups, and that works too. The point of the Q&A session was I just wanted to offer a touch point for you guys to basically connect with me. And I've been wanting to at least have a one-on-one connection call with everybody that has signed up. And so I have so far, and that's going really well. And it's shaping up to be an awesome group. So I cannot wait. I'm very, very, very excited to go back to Guatemala for the third time. All right, everybody. That brings us to our main content for the episode. How my locks changed my life. So going back to Lady Gaga, let's break down these lyrics a little bit. I already talked about hair as an identity. I remember being young, my mother telling me that hair is your most important accessory because it frames your face. And I love this song, Hair by Lady Gaga, because she's talking about wanting to be free, wanting to express herself, and feeling that her self-expression is so attached to her outward appearance. Her identity is so attached to her outward appearance, in particular, her hair. And if y'all know and love Lady Gaga like I do, even if you don't, she's famous enough that you probably know all her crazy outfits and that she wears lots and lots of different wigs. Her hair is different just about every single time. Every single picture of her hair is different. And part of that is because she wears a lot of wigs. So the song is kind of about the vulnerability of changing your hair and changing it so much that maybe start to lose your identity or lose track of like who you are and what's true for you, and just wanting that external validation from like friends and family and people that love you of like you are seen, you are valid, whatever your identity is, like you are valid. And the song is geared toward, I feel like it's geared toward young people. It's from the Born This Way album, so I remember listening to that whole album. Oh, just got me through high school, man. I remember just being so angsty and like listening to it in my earbuds, just like, I just want to be free. I just want to be me. And I want lots of friends and invite me to their parties. And there's also a section that's talking about she's like talking to her parents, like, Mom and Dad, why can't I be who I want to be? And that's probably something so many teenagers or just people in general can relate to, is like feeling like it's not safe to authentically be yourself, especially like those of us in the queer community. But I'm sure a lot of people can just relate to that, like feeling like you aren't accepted by family, or like you have to be a specific way in order to be loved and accepted in general, right? And so she's talking about using her hair to cover up her insecurities and to get validation, to get love and acceptance, and kind of morph and change her identity. So there's just a lot of reasons why this song is very perfect for this moment and for this episode, especially with it being Gemini season, and of course with me having just cut off my hair from locks that were literally hitting my butt like super long the whole way down my back to now having a completely shaved head, and it feels so good, you guys. I cannot even express how much I love it. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while, and we'll get into it. So anyway, the lyrics, I am my hair. Of course, I'm saying this in a tongue-in-cheek way for my yogis out there, because yoga teaches we are not the body, we're not the mind, we're not the emotions, we're not our thoughts. We're the one that's observing all of that, the one that is underneath or sits behind. That quiet, still, peaceful, and deep awareness, that all knowing, all seeing consciousness That is our true selves. Our true selves is unchangeable. It has every form, and yet it's formless. Our true self does not end or begin or die. Our true self always is. And that's where we get this spiritual I am. So the I am, my hair, is a little play on words. But in this case, my hair has really opened up a lot of pathways for me to learn about myself and to reflect and to also learn about other people and uh, really expand my capacity. So we'll talk a little bit about why locks specifically are considered to be such a sacred and spiritual hairstyle. But just to finish up here with the lyrics, I've had enough. This is my prayer that I'll die living just as free as my hair. I've had enough. This is my prayer that I'll die living just as free as my hair. So, part of my spiritual intention, and I'll talk in more depth about this, for wearing the locks is basically to initiate ego deaths for myself, or at least to challenge my ego. And the idea behind certain types of hairstyles in yoga specifically is that it does weaken the ego, or it goes up against the ego and creates some type of surrender, right? So my teacher Swami Shankarananda has told me that in the yoga scriptures, there are cited only two acceptable hairstyles for the yogi. One is to wear their hair in locks, and the other is to have short hair, have a shorn head or a shaved head. And both of these styles are because they're low maintenance, because they're good for prana or life force energy, and because they challenge the ego. Because our hair is that best accessory, as my mother says, because our hair is our identity, but in the ego sense, right? Like the little I sense of identity, because it is so closely connected to our body and our physical appearance. Like just changing your hair can radically alter your whole physical appearance. It can radically alter the way other people perceive you, the way you feel. Like it can change your energy. Again, our hair is energy. It holds energy. It holds prana. So in a sense, our hair is like our ego. When we shave the hair completely off, we're saying, okay, ego, I'm renouncing you, and I'm choosing to identify with that which is higher, with my true self, not my little L, my little S self, my small self. Paisley, right? I'm not choosing to identify with Paisley. I'm choosing to identify with that which is higher, that which is so far beyond all of us, and yet which lives within us, right? And then locks are the other option. And we'll get into the spiritual reasons for locks, but essentially these two choices facilitate the yoga practitioner's process and progress toward moksha, what is known as liberation or freedom in yoga. And in a sense, it is the goal of yoga. So there could be multiple goals of yoga depending on framework and ideology and actually the question that you're asking. The yoga scriptures also let us know that there are multiple reasons that somebody might incarnate in this lifetime. So pleasure is actually a valid reason for incarnating, like to experience this physical realm and experience all of the sensory pleasure within it is actually one reason that we might incarnate according to yoga scriptures. Another reason is to have material, physical, financial success and experience karma and kind of play out karmic patterns through that success. And the purpose of those two are so that we can continue and perpetuate this cycle of birth, death, rebirth, so that consciousness can experience itself. And so those are valid reasons to exist. Those don't have to be like considered evil or considered not spiritual or anything like that. Yoga scriptures literally tell us that those are valid reasons for existing. And it also depends a little bit on intention. Like, yeah, I think that's getting out of the scope of this podcast, but I'll just say it like this. If somebody has positive intentions and they want to experience pleasure and they want to succeed in this lifetime, then there's nothing wrong with that. If somebody has negative intentions and they experience that pleasure, they try to get that quote success or like financial abundance, get rich, but through negative means, through heavy or evil or unkind or violent types of intentions, then that person is going to experience more karma and build it up to where karma will then even out and they'll have to repay it, whether in this lifetime or the next lifetime. And so, yeah, this is getting really into a deeper discussion. And karma is a topic I could just go on and on about. But there's no karmic debt that goes unpaid. And also, karma is not actually like vengeance, you guys. Karma is more just the great equalizer. Like, karma itself is neutral. It's not emotionally based, right? Therefore, it's not payback or vengeance because it's not emotionally based. It's literally like the law of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just transforms. So when somebody does something with bad deeds, with bad intentions, with negative energy behind it, they're creating that karma that they will then have to eventually somehow in this lifetime or in another lifetime pay back. All right, that's my side quest on karma. Maybe I'll make a whole episode about karma. Gosh, I could just talk and talk about karma. But anyway, so those are the two valid reasons for incarnating, according to yoga. There are 4 in total. The other two, the other two are dharma and then moksha. So dharma is incarnating for some kind of greater spiritual purpose, whatever your duty is in this lifetime. And by the way, your duty can totally be something mundane, like I incarnated to have the best grocery store in the neighborhood, and that's my dharma. Like, again, it's less about the action and more about the intention and the energy behind the action. So if your dharma is to own a grocery store and you're choosing to fulfill your dharma with focus, with intention, with presence, with gratitude, then you are living your highest spiritual purpose in this lifetime and you are fulfilling your dharma. So that is a valid reason for incarnation. That is one of the 4 purposes of life. And then the last purpose of life is moksha, liberation, freedom. And this is for those of us on the spiritual path after we incarnate so many times. And I'm not talking about anyone specific, right? Because it really doesn't matter how many times you incarnate. It's more how quickly you work through your karma, the intensity and the focus and the enthusiasm with which you work through your karma will determine how quickly you reach moksha. However, some folks come into this current lifetime being primed to reach moksha because of work done in their previous lifetimes. And this is getting into the subject of karma again. But these 2 hairstyles, the locks and the shaved head, facilitate that process toward moksha because I didn't wear the locks for my own pleasure. And similarly, I didn't shave my head for my own pleasure, although it is pleasurable, to be honest. I never wore the locks for pleasure. I never wore the locks to succeed financially or to succeed materially. I suppose I could say it was my dharma to wear the locks, but I would say it's more accurately stated that my dharma is to be a teacher, which I was doing regardless of the locks. But truly, the intention behind the locks is moksha, is this pursuit of freedom and liberation from what? The little s self, the ego. Hence choosing the locks versus shaving the head. Because where shaving the head is like, in my opinion so far, it's like easy mode for everything. Like I just straight up don't have to think about it, which is great because then theoretically you can spend more time thinking about meditation and sutras and study and in prayer, that kind of thing, right? But I chose the route of the locks first in order to challenge my ego because I didn't wear them for pleasure. I didn't wear them. I knew that they would probably impact my ability to be hired and like impact certain, if I wanted to go certain career routes, like I wouldn't be able to, at least for the next 7 years, because certain companies would not hire me having locks. I didn't necessarily wear them for Dharma. Like I'm still doing my Dharma. I'm still a teacher. Although they did help spur me on the path of my Dharma and kickstart my career as a teacher, all happened like during this process, during this cycle with the locks. So I chose them for moksha. I wore them for cultivating liberation and freedom from myself, from identification with the mind, from identification with the body, from identification with this little s self called Paisley, right? Because when Paisley's in charge, Paisley wants to stay up late and eat pizza. Paisley wants to skip yoga in the morning and skip meditation in the morning. Paisley wants to spend lots of money that Paisley doesn't have. And Paisley wants to have a big prideful ego and get really mad and tell people off for XYZ because if Paisley's burned out or whatever. So basically what I'm saying is Paisley is not a great boss of me. Paisley is not who I want to aspire to, so to speak. Not in like a self-hating kind of way, but in like a spiritual superseding, rising above the ego kind of way. And so I needed something that was going to challenge my ego. And let me tell y'all, having locks did that in just about every possible way. So let's get into this a little bit more. So like I said, Saturday, May 10th was the 7-year anniversary of the day I initiated myself further into the yogic path by vowing not to brush or cut my hair for 7 years and to allow my hair to form into natural locks, which are known as Shiva Jatas, as in the Hindu god Shiva in yoga. And side note, my name is Paisley Parvati Devi. Parvati is the consort of Shiva, so they go together. She's the spiritual feminine counterpart of the god Shiva, who is the Hindu god of destruction. Woot woot, Shiva! And he's known for wearing locks. If you Google a picture of Shiva, you'll see that he has these gorgeous locks of hair curled up on his head and flowing over his shoulders. And so part of the spiritual purpose of wearing Shiva Jatas is so that every time you're looking in the mirror, every time you see yourself, you're not seeing Paisley, you're seeing Shiva, or a reminder of Shiva, right? And I'm not identifying as Paisley, I'm identifying then as Shiva and identifying with that higher consciousness that is the goal of yoga, right? So to commemorate the completion of this vow, my mentor Swami Shankarananda Ji came up from West Virginia, where he lives, to lead a haircutting ceremony with me and several of my loved ones at Yoga Central in Canton. And it was such a special day, you guys. It just felt like really a major completion of a cycle. So about 2 years ago, I got an undercut, which I'm still counting it. Okay? Because the original vow was to not brush or cut my hair for a full 7 years. About 5 years rolled around, and like my hair was so heavy. You guys will see at the end of the episode when I show the video. My hair was so heavy and dense, it was getting in the way of my teaching. It was getting in the way of my own personal practice. Like every time I danced, it'd be like going everywhere and like smacking people. Like it was heavy. It was causing a lot of like neck pain and everything too, just because they were getting so long. And so I was like, oh my gosh, if I'm going to finish this 7-year vow, I need to at least like give my neck a little bit of a break. And so I got my undercut and I shaved half of my head. And then I just had the other half of my head still with the locks. So I kept the ones that I shaved on my altar. I did end up burning a few. I buried a few. I put some in the water, and in the Ganges in India, I put one in the river there as well. But the rest of them I kept on my altar in preparation for this ceremony. So as far as the ones that were still on my head, I had 13 remaining locks still on my head. So I asked 13 special people in my life to each cut one off and be a part of the haircutting ceremony. So that's what happened on May 10th. And those 13 people were some of my family members, my partner, my teachers, some of my students, a few colleagues, and dear friends of mine. So like I said, I'll share the whole journey on video from when I like first started forming my locks and they were just basically tangles in my hair, to when the locks actually matured, and then to the hair cutting ceremony where you can see everybody each cutting off a lock and then see me get my head shaved. And during the first part where it's like showing all the different videos over the 7 years of my locks actually forming and growing and everything, it is me singing the Shri Argala Stotram, which is a hymn to the goddess during that part. And the video is, or the audio for that was taken during the haircutting ceremony when I sang that song and played my harmonium. So it was a really such a special moment. If you're listening to this and you were there, thank you so much for being there and for being a part of that moment and enjoying that with me. I really, it was so beautiful. So, and what inspired my locks? All right, why, Paisley? Why did you do this thing? I basically was doing it to symbolize this 7-year commitment, a minimum of 7 years commitment to walking the yogic path. Like I mentioned, symbolism of Shiva. And the locks are 100% my own hair. They were a mixture of free form for about the first 6 months and then crochet method. So why 7 years? The 7 years came to me as intuitive guidance. At the time, I was 21 and decided to do this, and 7 years was just the number that intuitively came. And I now understand that I've been in the current cycle, well, I guess the cycle that I just ended, like officially just ended. And it's been this huge cycle of growth and learning for the past 7 years, particularly pertaining to the areas of life of my 10th house and my 6th house. So the cycle began when I graduated from college in 2017. That's also the year that I graduated from my first yoga teacher training. And I don't know if you all can remember, August 21, 2017, so this was about 7 years ago now, there was a total solar eclipse visible in the United States. And it did like a whole big arc across the whole entire continental United States. So it was visible in a lot of different places. It wasn't visible in Ohio then, but I think it was visible in like Tennessee. But it was a partial solar eclipse visible in Ohio. So anyway, that eclipse was in the sign of Leo, which rules my moon sign and my Mercury sign that are in my 10th house, which is the house of career, success, and legacy. And so this house was getting activated at the beginning of this cycle. So when I then about like 6 months later decided to form my locks. So astrologically, my intuition lines up with the cosmos and the astrological weather. So 7 years ago, that eclipse happened, the cycle started, and really for the past 7 years, I've been still hardcore studying yoga, like really deep into it. I completed my Ayurvedic training as well. Now I'm highly certified, have all this training, and have also spent quite a bit of time working in the field. At least like for the past 5 years now, I've been working in the field of yoga and wellness. And so this cycle is starting to, or it was starting to come to an end and really wind down for the whole entire past year for me. We had another total solar eclipse that was visible in the US last April, so April 8th, 2024. And that one was in the sign of Aries. That one was visible in Ohio. However, I was not in Ohio during that time because I was in Guatemala. So I just think it's really funny. Like, I did not plan that on purpose because I wouldn't have. Like, I would have wanted to actually see the eclipse because I didn't get to see it in 2017 because I was in college at the time and I didn't have anyone to like drive down to Tennessee with me just to see the totality, right? But then the totality was actually visible literally right exactly where I live in Ohio, but it just happened to fall on the only week out of the whole year that I was going to be out of the country. So I was like, dang. But also I was like, that's cool because again, just intuitively, like my intuition lined up with astrological transits, and I just happened to plan my very first international retreat during this total solar eclipse. So then the total solar eclipse that was visible then in April 8th, 2024 in the sign of Aries, that was in the sign of Aries, which rules my 6th house of routines, daily routines, work, health, and service to others. So that's like the note that I've been on for like the whole past year, but I really feel like that theme is starting to be, that's like the new theme I feel like for this next cycle that I'm going into. I feel like I've done a lot of my learning. I've like done a lot of my schooling in preparation for my career, and now with my Saturn return also coming up, I'm like being shifted over to focus a lot more on these 6th house areas of day-to-day routines, especially like work routines. Things with my business have been really getting pushed and falling into place this year as far as like admin stuff for my business and marketing stuff and just staying organized and having a consistent strategy and plan and using my time effectively and all that good like 6th house theme kind of stuff. As well as the 6th house also rules health, service to others, and I feel like that's going to be the theme for maybe like the next 7-year or 9-year cycle. And my first Saturn return is coming up. When Saturn moves into Aries this coming Saturday, I will officially be in my Saturn return because my Saturn is in Aries. So if you're around, I'm 28, it could be anywhere around age 27 to 30, 31. Say hi, Chandra. Say hi. You are entering or already in your Saturn return. So just look to see what astrology sign, what zodiac sign your Saturn falls in your chart. But anyway, I'm heading into my Saturn return, starting what feels like a much more serious chapter of my life. The first Saturn return is known for being like a time when people start to settle down and do things like get married, get a house, and like get more serious about career, family, that kind of thing. Because Saturn is boundaries and lessons and brings a serious kind of energy to our lives. So yeah, for the past 7 years, I feel like I've been in this cycle of like spiritual initiation and training. And now with my Saturn return hitting, I've finished that cycle and I'm able to finally like build more on this foundation, which is good because this past 7 years has been like incredible, very spiritual. But I have not been able to like consistently build on any foundation. Every single time I've had a bit of a foundation starting to build, it's just been completely pulled out from under me and just completely crumbled and crushed. Um, and I think that's again just like the phase and the like astrological weather that I've been in. So hopefully Saturn will bring me some blessings and allow me to now actually like build on what I hope also will be a nice and solid foundation. So that's kind of the astrological transits for me with this the significance of this hair and everything for me. But the greatest inspiration for my hair is Sri Baba Hari Das, and that is an Indian monk who is the founder of the Mount Madonna Institute in California, where I have studied yoga and where I actually was living when I decided to lock my hair. So I was there at Mount Madonna Center. I was surrounded by photos of Babaji, which is the nickname for Baba Hari Das. It just means father, beloved father. I was surrounded by pictures of Babaji and his locks, and there were other yoga practitioners that lived there who also wore locks for spiritual purposes. And so I was inspired and I got this intuitive download and I made the decision to just stop brushing my hair and to lock my hair. So I marked that date and I made my own internal vow to just wear locks for the next 7 years, regardless of any possible challenges or like what they would bring up for me. And I knew that they were going to bring up a lot. I knew that going in. My locks were my roots to Mother Earth. They're my antenna. They were my antenna or my channel directly to the divine. And in yogic philosophy as well, the locks are said to stimulate the nadis, which are the subtle energy channels. And we have a lot of those nadis right at the crown of our head. Sahasrara chakra, the crown chakra, is also right on top of the head, said to be the soft spot on the baby's head when the baby's first born. And this is also said to be the place where the human soul enters a body. The human soul enters human body. Is the crown chakra. And so wearing locks on our head, on our crown chakra, can stimulate those nadis, those subtle energy channels, and stimulate spiritual energy. And it's also believed that our hair itself holds a lot of prana, a lot of life force energy. And a good like demonstration or visual for that is just regular unlocked loose hair falls out constantly, right? Whenever I have had long hair in the past, if I'm just going about my daily life, it's just constantly falling out and leaving a little trail behind. And that's kind of like leaving a little trail of energy behind. But with locking my hair, the hair doesn't fall out. It stays attached to the head. And so it's like holding that prana, holding that life force energy onto the body. And man, you guys, I have felt this energy shift so much just in the last couple of weeks since I shaved my head. Like every time I'm seeing my coworkers and my students, people that weren't at the ceremony, every time somebody sees me that hasn't seen me since I cut my hair, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're glowing. Your energy feels so light. You just feel like yeah, just like happier, lighter, and absolutely, I feel like I was literally carrying 7 years worth of energy and like just like heaviness with me. Like it was literally heavy, like several pounds of hair attached to my head. I could feel it immediately when everything was cut off. Like my neck already feels so much better. I was having really constant neck pain before. I actually didn't realize. I thought like something was. I thought maybe I have a rotator cuff, something in my shoulder. Like oh maybe it's my neck injury acting up. No, it was literally because of my hair. As soon as I cut it off, like I have had zero neck pain. And I was having pretty constant neck pain before. So yeah, I will attest to the fact that holds prana, hair holds life force energy. And so the idea is that we're holding that prana and it increases our personal power, our personal life force energy. I felt that benefit as well. I felt an increase for sure in like personal energy. But I don't know if I don't know if I would say that that was always a positive thing. It was intense, I'll say that. And fun fact, Bob Marley's wife was shot at one point. She was in a car and somebody was attempting to assassinate Bob Marley and mistaked his wife for him, and so shot the wife. And her hair, her locks, actually stopped the bullet. Like, it was thick enough and protective enough that the bullet was shot into her head, and her locks stopped the bullet and saved her life, and she lived. So, just fun fact that always wows me, because of just the power of like our hair and our energy. And so, like I said, I was tempted around like starting year 5. I was like, man, these are getting really heavy. Like, it feels intense. People's reaction to them is intense. Like, there's this energetic and physical weight that is literally on my shoulders. So around year 5, I was getting tempted to cut my vows short and just cut them off. But I'm glad I didn't, because that really helped me improve my personal willpower. And keeping my vow is something that actually was very important to do. I've practiced yoga for over 14 years, and I've studied the philosophy for about 8 or a little bit over 8 years now. So yoga is more than my career. It's the calling of my heart and soul. It's something I take very seriously. And so I wear locks for all of these spiritual reasons and more. And making that vow of committing to this yogic path and like really committing to the practice of just wearing the locks no matter what they brought up, what discomfort. It was really something that I'm glad that I stuck to. I'm glad that I fulfilled that vow, because when I was I was like begging my mentor at one point, the Swami, like, can I just do this now? Like, I have a year left on my vow, and I don't know if I can do it anymore. Like, my neck, and it's in the way of my asana practice. It's in the way of my teaching. Like, yeah, I just wanted them gone. And my teacher really encouraged me to just stick with the vow. Blessed are the ones who keep their vows. And so I did. I stuck with it, and it was worth doing for just all of the things that they brought up. So I can't stress enough. Like, my locks are very sacred to me. They were and are part of my spiritual path. They're not just like a subversive fashion statement. Some people do wear them just as a fashion statement. That's not how I wore them at all. That's not like, I wasn't just trying to be like edgy or whatever. So locks, no matter the person's intention, like whether they're doing it intentionally or not, locks are like a lifestyle choice, and locks are a political act. Yes, hair is political. In this case, yes, hair is political. In this case, it's not just hair. In this case, for me, wearing the locks was a symbol of my deep appreciation for and hope to unify all cultures, rather than appropriation of any single culture. And with the political nature of them and the cultural implications, while the locks were not intended to offend anyone, of course, not intentionally, I knew going in that this commitment in wearing this hairstyle, it would likely inspire all kinds of reactions, both within me and within other people. And yeah, definitely. Like, during those 7 years, I received every possible type of unsolicited feedback and every possible opinion about my hair from every possible different type of person, like across a broad range of backgrounds from the very beginning. And for the entire 7 year period, wearing this hairstyle challenged my ego, challenged my vanity. It inspired deep reflection and growth, and it resulted in a lot of raw and real conversations that would not have happened otherwise. So I'm very grateful for everything that they brought up. For the first couple of years, they honestly didn't look good. they they were ugly and crazy for like the full first 2 years. So again, I was not doing this to like reach some kind of appearance goal or for like a fashion statement. Um, the fact that my hair looked ugly, it helped me detach from my appearance. And in a world where females are measured by like attractiveness and sex appeal, it really challenged my ego. It really like brought up a lot of deep stuff for me to just detach from my appearance, because I used to be very, very, very controlling and very obsessive of my appearance, like this feeling of needing to appear perfect in order to get validation and acceptance and love. So it really did challenge my ego, to have ugly hair for for a little while. So I let my locks form completely naturally for about the first 6 months. And then, because I really wanted to say, like, yes, for sure, my hair formed locks on its own naturally. And I mean, it did. The video proves that. But at some point, I was like, this is getting a little out of hand. Because I mean, there's a reason, uh, even like people of color, like so many people, when they decide to install locks, they go to an actual loctician and have them installed. Like, there's a reason for that. It's because you can let them form naturally. They're just gonna look crazy, like really crazy, and be like growing into each other and like all tangled. And some of them will be huge and some of them will be tiny. And they won't be like even and like manageable, right? That is natural freeform, it's called, style locks. And that is what ended up happening. Like, I was getting one huge lock in the back of my head, and then like the rest of my hair was just kind of like doing its own thing, like staying loose. And then there was like a little bit of extra locks kind of forming. But if I wouldn't have intervened and had them actually worked on, I think I would have ended up with just one giant lock, like in the back of my head, which does not look professional or presentable, you know. So even though the point of them was to challenge my ego, and they definitely succeeded with that, I had to kind of balance that with like, well, okay, but I'm still a person in the world. Because at some point, a couple years in, I like moved back home to Ohio, and I wasn't being just like a traveling hippie anymore. I actually needed to like be employable and like be a person in society, you know? So I had to balance like my physical appearance, because yeah, wearing locks, people judge you. I mean, no matter what your hair looks like, but because locks has a stigma on it and like a lot of preconceived notions about them, uh, people definitely treated me differently, and I faced more judgment for sure, as a result of wearing them. So, so yeah, I let them form free form for the first 6 months. And then I ended up paying a visit to a fellow yogi in Southern California when I was still living over in California. And this fellow yogi and I, he actually crocheted, he did crochet method, which is like with a literal crochet hook, to form the Shiva Jatas into nice ropes, like more woolly, you know? Something that would then grow into being actually like decent looking, decently manageable, locks, versus just kind of being like a crazy matted mess, right? Again, it doesn't matter. Like, the argument is that, straight hair or like white people hair does not form locks naturally. That's not true. The argument is that only certain texture of hair will naturally lock on its own. That's not true. My hair did naturally lock on its own. It just wasn't going to be pretty, and that is true for all hair textures. Like, the texture that they say is the only one that will naturally lock itself, like people with that hair texture still go to the loctician and still actually get the locks put in, because they want it to look nice and look professional and be manageable. Um, so that argument is kind of, it's just not true. I mean, I have receipts. Look at the videos at the end of this podcast. So anyway, that's my little disclaimer. I went and paid a visit to my fellow yogi, and we chanted mantra and spent 12 hours properly forming the jatas into something that would end up, you know, being workable and being presentable. and everything. So I said that my locks were a hybrid of freeform and crochet method. So that was like the first couple of years. They just, even after I got that first maintenance done, they just basically looked really crazy. And my head looked just like really loony, right? For like the first 2 years. After that 2 year mark, then the locks had matured and my hair started being perceived as more attractive. And so then they started challenging my ego in a different way by then like inflating my ego. And I was getting a lot of attention, like a lot of comments and curiosity across the board. Like here's some of the comments that I got. This is a wide range, right? Your hair looks disgusting. I've always wanted to boyoyoyoing a dready girl. Can you read between the lines on what that boyoyoyoing is? So that was nice. That was from a male coworker that I barely knew. Your hair is so beautiful. Do you wash your hair? Does it smell? Aren't you a cute little dirty hippie? That was from a stranger on Instagram. I like your hair. I don't know what those are, but they aren't locks. That was from one that was clearly not happy to see me wearing locks as a white person. And my favorite, can I touch it? If they even bothered to ask. Yes, I did get, like, my hair was touched multiple times without my consent, just by strangers. Yeah, don't know why people think if you have a certain hairstyle, that means that they can touch you. Don't know why they think that. I understand, though, why it bothers Black ladies, and it is a thing to definitely do not touch Black ladies' hair. And I understand why. I also received unsolicited advice from a random Sikh man that I just ran into on the beach in California. And he was telling me like his spiritual philosophy in regards to hair. And he's a Sikh. So in the Sikh tradition, they wear like a head covering, like a turban. So he was telling me to shave my head instead and to just wear like a head covering because that will keep the energy in without holding on to old energy from the past. So he was also subscribing to this idea that hair holds energy, pranic energy, but because that can stagnate, and it's like energy is energy, it might give you more, but also might kind of hold you back and hold you down. So his recommendation according to his spiritual faith, which Sikhism is also like adjacent to and kind of a style of yoga, but at least adjacent to yoga, specifically Kundalini style yoga. And so similar practice, still yoga, just a completely different school of thought within yoga. So just a disclaimer with that too. But he was just giving this unsolicited advice of like, oh, hello, random stranger. I see that you have locks. You should definitely shave your head because that hair is holding all your energy that you may not want to hold on to. So, yes, all the unsolicited advice. But whether it be with contempt, fetishization, or admiration, curiosity, condescension, judgment, or discomfort, the point is, people treated me differently when I wore this hairstyle, and I was also canceled, like accused of appropriating culture. So I want to touch on that next. But this wide range of reactions from outside of myself was a spiritual practice. It gave me many opportunities to increase my willpower, to practice active listening, and cultivate non-attachment, humility, and patience. And now that the locks are off of my head, I'm just going to keep a shaved head at least for the summer and enjoy that. Whew, I'm loving it, you guys. It feels so good. As far as the locks that I have, I've already buried a few. I already, like I said, gave one to the Ganges River in India. And I plan on giving some to Lake Erie. Yeah, I'm not too sure yet. I'm going to just kind of slowly, I think, offer them back to the earth at different opportune times and just follow my intuition on that. But for right now, they're on my altar while I integrate their lessons. Okay, So we can't talk about this anymore until we talk more about cultural appropriation. Like I said, I pretty much knew going into this commitment that this topic was going to come up and probably come up a lot over the course of the 7 years. However, I knew my personal and spiritual reasons for locking my hair, and I made the educated decision to do it, to proceed anyway. This is one of the main ways that I was able to strengthen my willpower and cultivate humility, because it didn't matter what other people's perception was. If other people thought I was the scum of the earth and appropriating culture, so be it. Like, I know my own personal and spiritual reasons for doing this, and that's enough for me. Like, I don't need that external validation. I don't need to people please. I just need to do my practice. That being said, my experience wearing locks is that I was heavily objectified in relation to the locks, whether it be like people literally treating me like an inanimate object, like touching me without my consent, or fetishizing me, sexualizing the locks. And I also received a lot of boundary violations while wearing the locks. So if I, as a white person with a significant amount of privilege, received that type of objectification, that type of treatment while wearing them, I can only imagine what women of color go through. So I really want to hold space for that and acknowledge that. Like, absolutely, I hear the pain, I hear the trauma, and the way people of color are treated is absolutely not okay. It's absolutely gotta change. So several people over the course of the 7 years definitely attempted to call me out. Some in a gentle and well-meaning way. Others not so much. Others definitely in like a harsh cancel culture type of way. But no matter their approach, I always responded with an open mind and a listening ear. And like I said, this resulted in a lot of rich conversations, but it also did open me up to verbal abuse from people with unresolved trauma. And like I said, I hear the deep pain. I have compassion for that. This mistreatment and prejudice and systemic oppression of people of color worldwide is not lost on me. And in fact, I wore locks in solidarity with them, although it was not always perceived that way. And I can't stress enough that I understood going into it, like, due to the cultural and historical implications of wearing locks, specifically as a white person in the US, wearing my hair this way, I knew was going to alienate some people. However, spiritual people from just about any background have consistently recognized my true intentions for wearing the locks, which was as a constant reminder of my commitment to the yogic path and my yoga practice. Again, part of this practice was expanding my capacity to hold space for judgment from all types of people, breaking down that ego, right? Knowing that my white privilege would not protect me. Actually, the choice to wear locks, not only was it meant to be in solidarity with people of color, it was an attempt to forfeit some of my white privilege. Again, I understand that that's not necessarily how everyone would perceive that. However, it gave me opportunities to practice compassion and awareness of what was mine to carry versus what is projection, what is collective stuff, what is white guilt stuff, and then what actually is like something that we need to bring more attention to, right? And again, this is why I want to strive to elevate the voices and the experiences of people of color. So I kept the locks for the length of time that was required to keep my vow, as was recommended by my mentor. And this was a challenge every step of the way, especially those last couple of years were like the home stretch, most challenging part. But I did it. And the importance of keeping this vow is, again, strengthening my resolve, strengthening my willpower, and building self-trust of knowing that, okay, if I say I'm going to do something, if I put my mind to doing something, I'm going to see it through. I'm going to follow through with it, no matter how much discomfort or how much I maybe am tempted off of my path or like get distracted from my path. I'm going to stay the course. And so I'm very grateful that I did stick with it and that I saw my vow through to completion. As far as everything with, the white privilege and like getting canceled and all of that stuff, I mean, that was just part of it. That was part of the process of like softening myself, softening my edges and letting me just learn more perspectives and expand my consciousness. But let me emphasize that by saying this, my intention is not to victimize myself or certainly not to dismiss or undervalue the valid experiences of people of color. My only intention is to share my experience and to hopefully spark a deeper conversation, because we won't ever make progress socially if we don't approach these uncomfortable discussions from a place of good faith where we want to understand the other's perspective. I think most people just don't realize, like, locks have been worn by many cultures throughout human history and by cultures all across the globe. They're not specific to any one culture. That being said, it is still valid that people specifically in the US, specifically Black people in the US, have unique trauma associated with the locks. And so that perspective is absolutely valid. And part of me making this episode is to share more of like that perspective and encourage all of us to just be conscientious and have more awareness around something that could be considered as like, oh, it's just a hairstyle in air quotes. But no, it's so much more than that on so many levels. I pride myself on producing ethical content that educates myself and my clients on the socioeconomic structures of capitalism and colonialism. White supremacy is without a doubt woven deeply into the fabric of these structures, and that's led to the systemic oppression of people of color worldwide. And I want to dismantle these structures and create new systems that are equitable and inclusive. And as a creator, I remain committed to doing anti-racist work and to act as an ally to people of color. This isn't performative, it's in my heart. So, why is it then that most of my clients are white? This leads me to my last point: diversity in the yoga space. So stick with me here, you guys. We've covered a lot of ground today. This is the last little tidbit I'll leave you with. Racial diversity is a subject that's always been near and dear to my heart. Equity and inclusion for all people has always been very important to me. The lack of racial diversity in the yoga and wellness space has always bothered me since I started on my own spiritual path. And so, of course, I have investigated it. I've been a part of spiritual communities, classes, and trainings throughout the US, as well as in other countries, and the whitewashing of yoga just tends to prevail wherever I go. So while I cannot speak on behalf of people of color, my conversations with them have led me to pinpoint two main causes. Both causes are unfortunately connected with white privilege, which cannot exist without the oppression of people of color. The first cause is a lack of financial access. Yoga, like preventative healthcare services and gym memberships, can be rather expensive. It's considered by most folks to be a luxury, not a necessity. And if someone works multiple jobs to feed their family, they likely don't have the extra time, energy, or income to spend on a hobby like yoga. People of color disproportionately experience lower income and lack of access to healthcare as a result of systemic oppression. Studios are often located in upscale areas, so living in a low-income area with lack of access to reliable transportation can also be an obstacle. That being said, many yoga studios and providers do offer at least some free sliding scale or donation-based classes with the intention of creating more accessibility. However, in my own practice, I have unfortunately observed that this doesn't seem to actually attract more clients of color. This brings me to the second reason I've identified as far as why there's not more diversity in yoga, which is a lack of yoga and wellness practitioners or providers of color. And in those conversations with people of color, I've heard they simply just don't feel like yoga is for them. It's just not something that they've been exposed to within their community. They see classes filled with white people and yoga studios that are in white neighborhoods, and they assume that yoga is white people exercise. So if people don't see people who look like them doing something, it's natural to feel uncomfortable exploring that thing. And while I strive to make my offerings as inclusive and accessible as possible, I still can't control who's attracted to me as a teacher, right? It's natural to be attracted to mentors and people who are similar to us. That being said, for any people of color listening who are interested in yoga, I would highly encourage you to become certified as an instructor and share this practice with your community, because that's how we're going to get more diversity. In the classes that I've attended that have had Black yoga instructors, suddenly there's way more Black students in the room. So the problem is not a lack of interest or a lack of benefits, but a lack of representation. And the problem on the yoga studios side is not a lack of inclusivity, but a lack of accessibility. So again, if we get more teachers of color, we're going to see more students of color, and it'll create that positive feedback loop rather than the current feedback loop that we have, which is just white people attracting more white people, attracting more white people. And then the whole thing just gets whitewashed. One area where I do feel, obviously, that Queer Soul Alchemy has succeeded in promoting diversity is with the LGBTQ plus community. And see, that makes sense, right? It makes sense that I would attract queer clients because I'm very clearly queer and position myself as queer. However, I still want to just acknowledge that people of color who also identify as queer are going to be systemically the most disadvantaged. So again, I know this is a lot, you guys, a lot to think about, a lot of food for thought. And I've been unpacking all of this just as I've been writing the script for this episode and everything. So if you're a person of color and you have thoughts on this, please do email me. I would absolutely love to share your thoughts if you're okay with that and read them on the next podcast or just chat with you. You know, if you don't want me to share it, that's totally okay too. You can let me know. I'm just happy to chat with you and connect with you guys. And even if you're not a person of color too, like feel free to reach out, and I just love to hear from you guys and feel like we're having more of a dialogue and less like I'm just like yelling into the ether. So the more you guys can comment and like respond back to me, hit reply on my email newsletter and stuff, it feels less like I'm just like shouting into the ether, which I know I'm not, but like, yeah, it's just nice to hear from you guys. So bottom line, the last note that I'll leave y'all with, no matter who you are or where you come from, you are welcome here in this space. You are loved here, and you are enough. The resources available on this podcast will remain free. The practices of yoga and Ayurveda are accessible through this podcast, through free resources on my website. And these practices can help us heal guilt and shame, reclaim and revive our bodies, and create harmony with ourselves, with others, and with the earth. Stay tuned for the Locs video. Hari Om Tat Sat. Be sure to check out the other episodes, and I'll talk to you soon. Blessed be. With all my love, Paisley Parvati Devi.
is helpful, especially when we're here involved in this. If you wish to speak something, it's fine. You're certainly invited to do. And if you wish to be quiet, offering blessings is a beautiful way to do. Yeah? Okay.
Does it matter which side? Mm-hmm. Okay. May you always be surrounded with love. It's my wish for Oh my gosh, that one's giant. Oh, you're free. I feel so naked. It's so good though.
Shiva, Shiva, Shambho. Shiva, 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 Shambho. Quieter. Shiva, 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 Shambho. Shiva, Shiva, Shiva,
whisper